Single Waitress shelters 25 freezing bikers. Next morning, 1,500 Hells Angels stop outside her diner. But when a billionaire arrived demanding answers, her hidden past. Subscribe now, or this might be our last meeting. Follow, comment, and share to stay connected. Don't miss out. Let's dive in. The wind screamed against the windows of Highway Diner like something alive and angry. Lena Brooks wiped down the last booth, her movements automatic after 3 years of this routine. Outside, the blizzard had transformed Route 9 into a white nightmare. Abandoned cars dotted the highway like forgotten toys, already half buried under drifts that climbed higher every hour. She checked her watch. 11:47 p.m. The radio crackled with another weather alert, the third one that evening. All roads closed. All shelters full. Stay inside if you can. The coffee maker hissed behind her, filling the empty diner with a smell that used to comfort her. Used to, before everything fell apart. Before Dr. Lena Harrison became just Lena, the night shift waitress who asked no questions and expected none in return. Her breath fogged the glass as she stared into the storm. That's when she saw them. Headlights. Multiple headlights, moving slowly through the whiteout like ghosts. The rumble of engines cut through the wind, deep, powerful, unmistakable. Motorcycles. Lena's heart kicked against her ribs. 25 bikes pulled into the parking lot. Riders hunched against the cold, ice crusting their leather jackets like armor. They moved stiffly, dismounting with the careful movements of people pushed past their limits. The lead rider approached the door. Tall, broad-shouldered, his beard white with frost. He didn't knock, just stood there, waiting. Lena unlocked the door. "We need shelter," he said. No apology, no explanation, just fact. She stepped aside. "Then come in." They filed past her in silence, 25 men and women whose faces were gray with cold, whose hands shook as they pulled off frozen gloves. Someone coughed, a wet rattling sound that made her medical training kick in automatically. Hypothermia. Early stages, but getting worse. "Sit," she ordered, already moving behind the counter. "Everyone sit down right now." The lead rider, Reaper, she'd learn later, watched her with sharp eyes that missed nothing. But he sat. They all sat. Lena worked fast. Every pot in the kitchen went on the stove. Soup from the freezer, coffee brewing in both machines. She grabbed every blanket from the storage room, the ones kept for emergencies exactly like this. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, muscle memory from different life. "You," she pointed at a younger rider whose lips had turned blue. "Blanket. Now. Keep your extremities covered." He blinked, surprised but obeyed. She ladled soup into every bowl she had, moving from table to table. Steam rose in small clouds, and she watched them wrap frozen fingers around the ceramic warmth. One woman started crying silently, tears cutting clean tracks through the road dust on her face. "Here." Lena set down soup and coffee, squeezed her shoulder once. "You're safe now." The radio announced another alert. The storm was intensifying. All roads would remain closed until morning at the earliest. Possibly longer. Reaper stood, and the diner went quiet. "We can't pay full price for—" "Nobody's asking you to pay anything," Lena interrupted. She met his gaze steadily. "Here, nobody dies of cold. That's the only rule that matters tonight." Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. He nodded once. They helped her then, these leather-clad strangers, helped her board up the windows that rattled worst in the wind, helped her drag the mattresses from her tiny apartment above the diner, helped her create a makeshift dormitory across the vinyl booths and tile floor. The heater groaned under the strain of warming so many bodies, but it held. The lights flickered twice, but stayed on. By 3 a.m., most of them were asleep. Lena moved through the dim space, checking on the ones she'd mentally flagged as most at risk. The woman who'd cried was breathing easier now. The young rider's color had returned. She paused by the window, pulling her cardigan tighter. Outside, the storm raged on, burying the world in white silence. Inside, 25 people slept safe and warm because she'd opened a door. Reaper appeared beside her, quiet as smoke. "Most people would have called the cops. Most people aren't me." He studied her profile. "No, I don't think they are." He paused. "Your name?" "Lena." "Thank you, Lena. You saved lives tonight." She didn't answer. Didn't tell him that saving lives used to be her job, back when she had a different name and a different life. back before Troy Dalton destroyed everything. The wind howled, the diner held, and Lena Brooks, who'd learned to expect nothing from the world, didn't know that by dawn, everything was about to change. The sound woke her. Lena jerked upright from where she dozed in the corner booth, her neck stiff and protesting. For a moment, she couldn't place the noise, a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once, growing steadily louder. Engines, dozens of them. She stumbled to the door, her heart suddenly pounding. The storm had passed sometime during the night, leaving Route 9 transformed into a glittering white landscape under a pale winter sun. The snow had stopped, but the cold remained brutal, the kind that burned exposed skin in seconds. Lena pushed open the door and froze. The parking lot was full, completely full. Motorcycles lined up in neat rows, chrome and steel gleaming in the early light. Hundreds of them. She stopped counting at 300, her breath catching in her chest. More kept arriving, engines rumbling down the freshly plowed highway, pulling into formation with military precision. Riders dismounted, standing beside their bikes. Waiting. What? Her voice came out, barely a whisper. Reaper appeared at her elbow and she jumped. "Sorry," he said, though he didn't look particularly sorry. "They heard what you did. I don't understand. The 25 you sheltered last night?" He gestured at the sea of leather and chrome. Word traveled fast. Every chapter within 500 miles wanted to come say thank you properly. Lena's stomach dropped. How many? 1,500, give or take. Her knees actually went weak. 1,500 Hell's Angels. At her diner. The small, invisible diner where she'd hidden for 3 years specifically because nobody noticed it. "They're going to draw attention," she said faintly. "They already have." Reaper nodded toward the highway. News vans. 3 of them. Cameras already set up and rolling. A reporter was doing a stand-up in front of the diner, gesturing enthusiastically at the impossible scene behind her. No, 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 no. Lena backed into the diner, but Mary Lou was already there, must have driven through the cleared roads. "Honey, you need to get out front. They're asking for you." "I can't, Mary Lou, I can't be on camera." "Too late." The older woman squeezed her hand. "Your face is already on 3 morning shows. The story's everywhere. Lone waitress saves stranded bikers. It's beautiful, Lena." It was a nightmare. Lena's hands trembled as she tied her apron with fingers that felt numb. 3 years. She'd stayed hidden for 3 years. And now her face was on television, her name being spoken by reporters, her story being shared across the country. Troy Dalton would see it. He'd know exactly where to find her. "I need to." She turned toward the back exit. "Lena." Reaper's voice was gentle but firm. "You saved our brothers and sisters. The least we can do is stand with you now. Whatever you're afraid of, you're not facing it alone anymore." She wanted to laugh. These people didn't understand. They didn't know what Troy was capable of, how far his influence reached, how thoroughly he'd destroyed her the first time. But outside, 1,500 motorcycles waited. 1,500 people who'd ridden through the aftermath of a blizzard to say thank you. She took a breath, walked outside. The roar that greeted her was deafening. Not aggressive, celebratory. Riders revved their engines in unison, the sound rolling across the snow-covered landscape like thunder. Some held up signs. Others just nodded, their respect written in weathered faces and steady gazes. Lena stood on the diner's front step, the winter sun cold on her face, and tried not to cry. A reporter shoved a microphone toward her. "Ms. Brooks, can you tell us what inspired you to shelter these riders last night?" "They needed help," she said simply. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. "That's all. But you took a risk?" "No risk. Just humanity." The reporter looked disappointed by the simple answer, but the crowd erupted again. Approval. Agreement. Mary Lou appeared beside her with coffee, ever practical. Reaper organized the crowd, ensuring nobody blocked the highway. The police arrived, but seemed uncertain what to do with such a massive, peaceful gathering. And somewhere, in a high-rise office 3 states away, Lena knew Troy Dalton was watching the morning news. The thought made her stomach turn to ice. But she stayed standing, stayed visible, because for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't alone, even if she didn't know yet what that would cost her. The black Mercedes S-Class cut through the crowd like a shark through still water. Lena saw it coming before anyone else did, sleek, expensive, completely out of place among the chrome and leather. The motorcycles parted instinctively, riders turning to watch as the luxury sedan rolled to a stop directly in front of the diner's entrance. Her stomach tightened. She knew that kind of car, knew the type of man who drove it. 3 men in dark suits emerged first, scanning the crowd with the practiced vigilance of professional security. Then the rear door opened, and Cole Granger stepped out into the February cold. He looked exactly like his photographs, tall, dark hair styled with casual precision, wearing a charcoal coat that probably cost more than her car. But the photos hadn't captured the sharp intelligence in his gray eyes, or the tight set of his jaw that suggested barely controlled anger. He surveyed the scene with obvious distaste. 1,500 bikers, news cameras, a roadside diner that had seen better decades. This was clearly not his world. His gaze found Lena, and he started forward. Reaper materialized beside her, solid as a wall. "Problem? I don't know yet," she murmured. Cole Granger climbed the steps to the diner entrance, his security flanking him. Up close, he was even more imposing, 6'2" of controlled power and expensive tailoring. When he spoke, his voice carried the crisp edge of someone used to being obeyed. "I need to speak with whoever authorized this gathering on my property." Silence rippled through the nearby crowd. Even the reporters went quiet. Lena stepped forward, ignoring the way her heart hammered. "Your property?" "The land adjacent to this establishment." His eyes narrowed. "My company owns the commercial development rights for this entire corridor. This assembly is creating a liability issue. They're just saying thank you," she said evenly. "Nobody's damaging anything. That's not the point." His tone suggested he was explaining something obvious to someone slow. "There are permits required for gatherings of this size, insurance considerations, traffic safety protocols. People were freezing to death last night." Lena felt her spine straighten, the old authority creeping back into her voice despite herself. "I authorized shelter because they were human beings in crisis, not because I checked your company's liability concerns first." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. People probably didn't talk to Cole Granger like that. The silence in the diner had gone absolute. Every biker within earshot was watching now, their expressions carefully neutral but their postures subtly shifted. Protective. Cole's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to be reasonable here. I'm prepared to offer compensation for the inconvenience and relocate." "We don't want your money," Lena interrupted quietly. "We just wanted to survive the night." "Nevertheless," he pulled out his wallet, extracting several bills without looking at them. "For your trouble. And to cover any damages." "Put it away." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said put it away." Lena crossed her arms, suddenly exhausted. "Not everything can be solved by throwing money at it, Mr. Granger. Sometimes you just have to accept that people did something decent without calculating the return on investment." For a long moment, he just stared at her. The bills hung between them, ignored. Around them, cameras captured every second of the confrontation. Cole slowly returned the money to his wallet, his expression unreadable. "You're either very brave or very foolish." "I'm just tired," she said honestly. "And I've dealt with much scarier men than you." That got a reaction. His eyebrows rose slightly. Reaper made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. "I see." Cole's tone had shifted, become thoughtful rather than imperious. "You're not what I expected." "Neither are you," Lena said, though she wasn't sure that was true. Rich men were all the same in her experience, entitled, controlling, convinced their money made them right. The wind picked up, cutting through her thin uniform. Cole noticed. She saw his gaze flick to her bare arms, saw something that might have been concern cross his features before he shuddered it away. "The Weather Service is predicting another storm system," he said abruptly. "Moving in within 6 hours. These people need to clear out before the roads become impassable again." Reaper stepped forward, already organizing departure. "We'll be gone in 30 minutes. Cole nodded once, curt, but his eyes stayed on Lena a moment longer than necessary. "You should close early tonight. The second storm is supposed to be worse than the first." "I'll be fine." "I'm sure you will be." His tone suggested he actually believed it. "You seem to be good at surviving." Before she could respond, the first snowflakes began to fall. Fat, lazy flakes that promised the meteorologists hadn't been exaggerating. Cole turned toward his car, then paused. "Ms. Brooks, what you did last night sheltering those riders, that took courage." He glanced back at her. "But courage doesn't pay insurance premiums. Be careful." Then he was gone, folding back into the Mercedes, security following like shadows. The luxury sedan pulled away, disappearing down Route 9 as more snow began to fall. "Well," Mary Lou said from the doorway, That was interesting. Lena watched the car vanish, something uneasy settling in her chest. Cole Granger. She'd heard that name before, seen it in business journals. Billionaire developer, ruthless negotiator, and apparently Troy Dalton's business partner. Her hands started to shake. The second storm hit at dusk, just as predicted. Lena had sent Mary Lou home hours ago, insisting she could handle the evening shift alone. The bikers had departed with promises to return, with Reaper's personal number written on a napkin she'd tucked into her apron pocket. The news vans had packed up, chasing bigger stories. Now the diner sat empty except for 2 truckers nursing coffee in the corner booth and the wind howling outside like something wounded. She was wiping down the counter when she heard it. Another engine. Different from the motorcycles. Smooth, expensive, familiar. The black SUV pulled up with 3 others behind it, headlights cutting through the snow. Lena's stomach dropped even before she saw the door open. Troy Dalton emerged wearing his campaign smile and a coat worth more than she used to make in a month. His security detail followed, but Troy walked in alone, brushing snow from his shoulders with practiced charm. "Lena Brooks," he said warmly, like they were old friends. Or should I say Dr. Lena Harrison? Everything inside her went cold and still. The truckers looked up, sensing tension. Troy noticed, his smile never wavering. "Gentlemen, would you mind giving us a moment? Coffee's on me." He pulled out his wallet, laid down a $100 bill. They left. Of course they left. Nobody said no to State Senator Troy Dalton. Lena forced herself to stay standing, to keep her hands steady on the counter. "Get out." Now is that any way to greet an old friend? Troy settled onto a stool, perfectly at ease. "I saw you on the news this morning. Imagine my surprise. The brilliant Dr. Harrison working the night shift at a highway diner. How far you've fallen." "You made sure of that." "Did I?" His eyes gleamed with false innocence. "I seem to recall a medical board investigation. Falsified research data. Patients endangered by negligence. Your license revoked. All very unfortunate. All lies." Her voice shook despite her best efforts. "You fabricated every piece of evidence because I wouldn't sign off on your pharmaceutical kickback scheme. Prove it." He leaned forward, his smile sharpening. "Oh wait, you tried, and nobody believed you. Because who would believe a disgraced doctor over a respected state senator?" The door opened again. Cole Granger walked in, shaking snow from his coat, his security team remaining outside. He stopped when he saw Troy, something unreadable crossing his face. "Senator Dalton, I didn't expect to see you here." "Cole!" Troy stood, extending his hand. "I heard about this morning's little incident with the bikers. Came to check on our investment in the area. Make sure everything's secure." He glanced at Lena, and to personally thank this remarkable woman for her humanitarian efforts. Lena watched Cole shake Troy's hand, watched the easy familiarity between them. Business partners, of course. "You know Ms. Brooks?" Cole asked. "Know her?" Troy's laugh was warm, friendly, poisonous. "We go way back. Used to work together, actually, before her career change." Cole's eyes moved between them, clearly sensing undercurrents he didn't understand. "Yes," Lena said quietly. "Senator Dalton and I have history. Ancient history," Troy assured Cole. "I'm just here to offer support. This media attention she's receiving, it's wonderful, but it can be overwhelming. I want to help however I can." He pulled out a business card, set it on the counter. "My office handles community outreach. We could organize a proper charity event. Leverage this moment for good. Help more people." Every word was calculated, every gesture designed to look generous while reminding her exactly how much power he still held. Cole watched this exchange with increasing confusion. "You seem uncomfortable, Ms. Brooks." "I'm fine," she lied. "She's being modest," Troy said. "Always was. That's what I admired most about her back in our medical research days. Pure dedication to helping people." He paused, deliberately. "Before things went wrong, of course. The implication hung in the air. Before you screwed up. Before you fell apart. Before you proved you couldn't be trusted." Lena felt the old shame rising, the weight of accusations she'd never been able to disprove. Her hands trembled, and she hid them beneath the counter. Cole was still watching her face. Whatever he saw there made his expression shift. "Perhaps we should discuss the development project another time, Senator." Of course. Troy stood, buttoning his coat. "But Lena, think about my offer. A charity gala. Your story could inspire thousands. Help people." He smiled. Unless you're afraid of more attention? It was a threat wrapped in kindness. Accept my help and stay under my control, or refuse and I'll destroy you again. I'll think about it, she managed. Wonderful. Troy headed for the door, paused. Oh, and Lena? Those bikers this morning, 1,500 of them. Must have been quite a logistical challenge. I hope you kept proper records. OSHA regulations, crowd control permits, the liability issues alone. He trailed off, concern dripping from every word. Just want to make sure you're protected. Then he was gone, disappearing into the storm with his security detail. The silence he left behind felt suffocating. Cole remained standing by the door, watching her carefully. What just happened here? Lena's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Some monsters wear expensive suits, Mr. Granger. That's all you need to know. She grabbed her coat from the back room, suddenly desperate for air, for space, for anything but the diner's walls closing in. She pushed past Cole, out into the snow and wind and brutal cold. Behind her, she heard him call her name. She didn't stop. Troy Dalton moved fast. By morning, Lena's face was on every news channel again, but this time, the story had changed. Local waitress under investigation for fraud and criminal association. The headlines scrolled across screens in the diner's corner TV, each one worse than the last. Lena stood frozen behind the counter, coffee pot forgotten in her hand, watching her life collapse for the second time. The news anchor's voice was professionally concerned. Documents obtained by this station suggest that Lena Brooks, also known as Lena Harrison, may have orchestrated yesterday's biker gathering as part of a publicity stunt. State Senator Troy Dalton has filed formal complaints citing safety violations, unlicensed crowd management, and potential insurance fraud. The screen cut to Troy standing outside his office, looking grave and disappointed. I've known Ms. Harrison for years. I hate to see her struggling like this, potentially making dangerous choices for attention. We're working with local authorities to ensure public safety. Mary Lou burst through the door, newspaper in hand. Lena, honey, you need to see. I'm watching it. More footage rolled. Anonymous sources claimed Lena had connections to organized crime. Photos of her with Reaper appeared, cropped to look sinister. The context, her serving coffee, thanking the bikers, was completely removed. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Told you I could destroy you again. Drop this, or it gets worse. TD. The coffee pot slipped from her numb fingers, shattering across the tile floor. That son of a... Mary Lou started. The door swung open. Sheriff Martin walked in, his expression apologetic but firm. Lena, need to talk to you about some complaints we received. Of course you do. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. 2 hours later, the diner was officially closed pending investigation. Health code violations, fabricated ones obviously, but it didn't matter. The paperwork was real. The closure order was real. Lena stood in the empty parking lot, watching the sheriff post the notice on the door. 3 years of careful invisibility, gone in 24 hours. A motorcycle rumbled up. Reaper dismounted, his face dark with fury. Saw the news. This is bullshit. It's Troy Dalton. She couldn't look at him. This is what he does. He's good at it. Then we fight back. With what? Lena laughed, the sound brittle. He's a state senator with unlimited resources and complete media control. I'm a waitress with a destroyed reputation and a history of accusations I couldn't disprove the first time. She finally met his gaze. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you can't win against someone like Troy. Nobody can. That's where you're wrong. Reaper pulled out his phone. I made some calls. Got people looking into your senator. If he did this to you once, he's done it to others. Even if you find something, he'll bury it. That's his specialty, burying truth under mountains of lies. More motorcycles arrived. Reporters, too, shouting questions she refused to answer. The spectacle was exactly what Troy wanted. Public humiliation, professional destruction, social exile. Mary Lou grabbed her arm. You're staying with me tonight. No arguments. By evening, the story had spread everywhere. Social media exploded with opinions. Some defended her. She saved lives. Leave her alone. But more believed the narrative Troy had carefully constructed. Fraud. Criminal association, attention seeker, liar. Lena sat in Mary Lou's living room, watching her character assassination play out in real time on every screen. A news segment showed Troy at a charity event, announcing a generous donation to help communities affected by dangerous public gatherings. He looked magnanimous, concerned, trustworthy. She wanted to scream. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, but the message made her stomach drop. Disappointed in your choices. Terminating all development projects in the area until this situation resolves. CG, Cole Granger. Of course. Troy's business partner choosing his side, as everyone always did. He doesn't know the truth, Mary Lou said quietly, reading over her shoulder. Doesn't matter. He made his choice. Lena set down the phone, just like everyone else will. That night, while Mary Lou slept, Lena stood at the window watching snow fall across the dark street. Somewhere out there, Troy Dalton was sleeping peacefully, secure in his power and untouchable in his influence. And she was here. Again. Destroyed. Again. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was how easily people believed them. How quickly 3 years of quiet, honest work could be erased by a single news cycle and a powerful man's vendetta. Her reflection in the dark glass looked tired, defeated. But underneath the exhaustion, something else flickered. Something she'd thought Troy had killed 5 years ago. Anger. Not the hot, useless kind. The cold, calculating kind that came from watching monsters win too many times. Mary Lou appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her robe. Can't sleep either? He's going to keep destroying me until there's nothing left, Lena said quietly. That's how men like Troy operate. Total annihilation. Then maybe it's time to stop running. Mary Lou moved beside her. Maybe it's time to fight back. I tried that before. I lost. You were alone before. The older woman squeezed her shoulder. You're not anymore. Outside, a single motorcycle sat parked across the street. Reaper, keeping watch. Other bikes appeared throughout the night, a rotating guard of leather-clad strangers who'd decided she was worth protecting. Lena pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Troy had made a mistake this time. 5 years ago, he'd destroyed an isolated researcher with no allies and no support system. Now she had an army of bikers who didn't forgive easily. Now she had Mary Lou, who'd survived her own battles and knew how to fight dirty when necessary. Now she had nothing left to lose. The snow kept falling, covering the world in white. But morning would come eventually, and when it did, Lena Harrison was done hiding. Reaper found it 3 days later. Lena was sorting through boxes in Mary Lou's garage, her entire life reduced to 6 cardboard containers, when he walked in holding a small flash drive like it was made of gold. Tell me you kept the diner's security footage, he said without preamble. She looked up, exhausted. Mary Lou has backup drives somewhere. Why? Because your senator friend got sloppy. Reaper's grin was sharp as broken glass. He came to the diner the night of the storm. Cameras caught everything. Lena's heart kicked. What everything? Him bribing Sheriff Martin, cash in an envelope, explicit instructions to find violations at the diner and lose the paperwork on proper permits for the biker gathering. Reaper pulled up the footage on his phone. There it was, crystal clear. Troy's campaign smile disappearing the moment he thought no one was watching. Money changing hands. The sheriff nodding, taking notes. This proves, Lena's voice cracked, this proves he fabricated the charges. Gets better. Reaper swiped to another file. Found the diner's backup server. Your friend Mary Lou is paranoid about record keeping, every transaction, every visitor logged, including several visits from Dalton over the past 3 years, always when you weren't working. He paused. He's been monitoring you, Lena, making sure you stayed quiet and buried. Her hands trembled as she took the phone. Months of evidence. Troy checking up on her, ensuring his previous destruction remained permanent. There's more, Reaper continued. Called in some favors. Got a buddy who's investigative journalist, retired, but still connected. He's been wanting to take down Dalton for years, never had solid proof. His expression darkened. Turns out you're not the first person Troy destroyed. There's a pattern. Anyone who threatens his interests gets systematically ruined. Mary Lou appeared in the garage doorway. Just got off the phone with my lawyer friend. If we can prove malicious prosecution and bribery, we can file. No. Lena stood abruptly. Filing legal complaints will take years. Troy will bury it in appeals and countersuits. We need something faster. Like what? Lena paced the small space, her mind racing. 5 years ago, she'd played by the rules. Tried official channels, trusted the system, and Troy had used that trust to destroy her completely. This time needed to be different. The Memorial Charity Gala, she said suddenly. Troy hosts it every year. Biggest social event of the season. Every major donor, every business leader, every media outlet. Reaper's grin returned. Public exposure. Complete public exposure. Lena turned to Mary Lou. Can you get these files duplicated? Multiple copies, stored separately. Already on it. Her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it, then saw the caller ID. Cole Granger. Her finger hovered over the decline button. Answer it, Mary Lou said firmly. He might surprise you. Lena accepted the call, her voice carefully neutral. Mr. Granger. Ms. Brooks. He sounded tired. I need to speak with you. In person. I don't think that's... Please. The word came out strained, like he wasn't used to saying it. I received something anonymously this morning. Evidence that changes. He paused. Everything. I need to show you. Lena closed her eyes. What kind of evidence? Financial records. Emails. Transactions between Dalton and my company that I never authorized. His voice hardened. He's been using my business to launder money for years, and I had no idea. The silence stretched between them. Where are you? She asked finally. Outside Mary Lou's house. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes trying to figure out what to say. She looked out the garage window. Sure enough, the black Mercedes sat parked 3 houses down. Cole visible in the driver's seat. Alone. No security detail. I'll be right out. Reaper caught her arm. You sure about this? No, she admitted. But Troy made a mistake when he involved Cole. Billionaires don't like being used. She walked down the quiet street, her breath fogging in the February cold. Cole got out when he saw her coming, his expensive coat doing nothing to hide the exhaustion in his face. I owe you an apology, he said before she could speak. A significant one. You believed him over me. Everyone always does. I know. He pulled out a tablet, handed it to her. But I'm asking you to let me make it right. Lena looked at the screen. Emails, bank transfers, corporate documents showing years of financial manipulation. Troy had been using Cole's company as a front for corruption that went far beyond what he'd done to her. This destroys him, she said quietly. Completely. Cole's jaw was tight. And I want to help you do it. Not because I'm trying to fix my mistake with a grand gesture. Because it's the right thing to do. He met her eyes. And because you were right about me. I was coward who chose the easy path instead of asking questions. Lena studied him. The perfectly styled hair was disheveled. His tie was loose. He looked like a man who hadn't slept, who'd spent hours questioning everything he thought he knew. The charity gala, she said. You're on the board. I'm the primary sponsor. Can you get me in? Understanding crossed his features. You want to expose him publicly. I want everyone to see exactly who Troy Dalton really is. No lawyers, no delays, no chances for him to spin the narrative. She handed back the tablet. But I need access. To the stage. To the AV system. To the guest list. Cole nodded slowly. I can do that. He paused. This will destroy his career. Possibly send him to prison. Good. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. I'm done being a victim. Lena turned back toward Mary Lou's house, then stopped. Mr. Granger, why did you really come here today? He was quiet for a moment. Because I looked into your medical license revocation, read the board proceedings, the accusations. His voice softened. And then I read your research. Your actual research before Dalton got his hands on it. It would have saved lives. Her throat tightened. You didn't deserve what he did to you, Cole said. And I should have seen that immediately. I'm sorry I didn't. Lena nodded once, not trusting her voice, and walked back to the garage where Reaper and Mary Lou waited. Well? Mary Lou asked. We have a plan, Lena said. And we have exactly 12 days to pull it off before the gala. Reaper cracked his knuckles. Then let's get to work. The closed diner became their war room. Lena stood at the counter that used to be her workplace, now covered in printed documents, flash drives, and handwritten notes. Cole had convinced the sheriff to lift the closure order temporarily, something about investigating improper procedure, giving them a private space to plan. Reaper spread a blueprint of the Rosewood Grand Hotel across the counter. Security will be tight, 2 entrances, both monitored, guest list verified at the door. I'm on the planning committee, Cole said, leaning against the booth where he'd first confronted Lena 2 weeks ago. Everything felt different now. I can get her name added to the volunteer staff. Servers have access to everything, including backstage. Lena traced the layout with her finger. The presentation happens after dinner. Troy always gives a speech about charitable giving and community values. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. That's when we hit him, Mary Lou said from her laptop setup in the corner booth. She'd been compiling evidence for days, police reports, financial records, testimony from 3 other people Troy had destroyed. "I've got the presentation ready. Video, documents, timeline, everything." "Audio-visual system?" Reaper asked Cole. "Top of the line. I'll have my tech team test it that afternoon. Make sure we have remote access." Cole pulled out his phone, showing them the hotel's server layout. "Once we're in, we control every screen in that ballroom." Lena felt her stomach twist. 12 days had become 3 days had become tomorrow night. They'd worked around the clock, triple-checking evidence, building an airtight case. But standing here now, looking at the plan laid out in blueprints and backup files, the reality hit her. Tomorrow night she would face Troy Dalton in front of 500 of the state's most powerful people. Tomorrow night she would either destroy him or he would destroy her completely. "You okay?" Cole appeared beside her, his voice low enough that the others couldn't hear. "No," she admitted. "I'm terrified." "Good. Fear means you understand the stakes." He paused. "But you don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you." She looked at him, really looked at him. Over the past 12 days, Cole Granger had transformed from the arrogant billionaire who'd walked into her diner, demanding explanations, to someone who spent 18-hour days helping her build a case against his former business partner. He'd severed all ties with Troy publicly, citing ethical differences. The business community was still buzzing about it. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked quietly. "Because I was complicit." His jaw tightened. "I didn't know what Troy was doing, but I should have. I had resources, investigators, access to information most people don't, and I chose convenience over questions." He met her eyes. "I can't fix what he did to you 5 years ago, but I can help you make sure he never does it to anyone else. That's not the only reason." Cole's expression shifted, became something more vulnerable. "No, it's not." He didn't elaborate, but his gaze said what he couldn't, not yet, not with everything else hanging in the balance. Reaper cleared his throat deliberately. "Lovebirds. Focus." Lena felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she turned back to the blueprints. "Security protocol. Troy will have his own detail." "Already handled," Reaper said. "We'll have 50 brothers positioned throughout the event. Volunteers, staff, even a few legitimate guests. If he tries to run, he won't make it past the lobby." "And if he tries to shut down the presentation?" Mary Lou asked. Cole smiled, cold and sharp. "He can't. Not without physically attacking the AV system, and we'll have that monitored. Once we start playing the evidence, it feeds simultaneously to every news outlet in the state. Live stream, no takebacks." "He'll claim it's fabricated," Lena said. "Let him." Cole pulled out another folder. "I've had 3 independent forensic accountants verify the financial records. 2 law firms reviewed the evidence. Everything's authenticated and notarized. He can claim whatever he wants. The proof is irrefutable." Lena picked up the small flash drive that held copies of everything. Years of Troy's corruption, reduced to 16 gigabytes of data. "He destroyed my career with lies. We're destroying his with truth." "Poetic justice," Mary Lou said. "Now let's talk about your speech." "My what? You think we're just going to play a video and walk away?" The older woman stood, crossing to hand Lena a stack of note cards. "You're going to speak. You're going to tell your story. Put a human face on his cruelty." Lena's hands trembled as she took the cards. "I don't know if I can." "Yes, you can," Cole said firmly. "You survived him once. You rebuilt your life from nothing. You sheltered 25 strangers in a blizzard without hesitation." His voice softened. "You're stronger than you think, Lena. Stronger than he ever wanted you to know." She looked down at the cards. Simple bullet points. Her story, distilled to 3 minutes of testimony. The brilliant medical researcher. The kickback scheme she'd refused to sign off on. The fabricated evidence. The systematic destruction of her reputation, her career, her life, and the 3 years of hiding. The shame, the silence, the fear that had ruled her for so long. "No more fear," she said quietly. Reaper nodded approvingly. "That's the spirit." They worked through the night, rehearsing timing, double-checking protocols, running through contingency plans. Cole made calls to ensure hotel staff would cooperate. Mary Lou contacted the 3 other victims, getting their permission to include their stories. Reaper coordinated his people, assigning positions and backup plans. By dawn, they were ready. Lena stood at the diner window watching the sun rise over Route 9, the same view she'd had 3 years ago when she'd first arrived broken and desperate, the same highway that had brought those frozen bikers to her door, the same road that had somehow led to this moment. Cole appeared beside her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Figured you could use this. She accepted gratefully. Thank you. For everything. Thank me after it's over. But he smiled, tired but genuine. Though I should probably admit something. What? I'm glad those bikers got caught in that storm. Glad they ended up at your diner. Glad you made the news. He paused. Otherwise, I never would have known you existed. Lena's heart did something complicated in her chest. Cole, I know, wrong timing. But after tomorrow night, he stopped, shook his head. Let's just survive tomorrow night first. The sun climbed higher, burning off the last of the morning fog. Somewhere across the state, Troy Dalton was probably having breakfast, confident and untouchable. He had no idea what was coming. The Rosewood Grand Hotel glittered like something from a dream. Lena adjusted her serving uniform, black dress, white apron, hair pulled back severely, and tried to control her breathing. Around her, the ballroom buzzed with wealth and power. Designer gowns, tailored tuxedos, jewelry that cost more than most people made in a year. And at the center of it all, Troy Dalton held court like a king. Server 7, you're assigned to the East Wing tables, the catering manager said, barely glancing at her fake name tag. Keep water glasses filled. Don't engage guests in conversation. Yes, ma'am. Lena moved through the crowd, invisible in the way servers always were to people like this. She spotted Reaper near the bar, dressed in catering whites. 2 more bikers worked the coat check. Another 3 positioned as hotel security. Cole sat at the head table, perfectly composed in his tuxedo, laughing at something a councilwoman said. Their eyes met briefly across the room. He nodded once, imperceptibly. Everything was in place. Troy's speech was scheduled for 9 p.m. after the dinner service. Lena checked her watch. 8:47. 13 minutes. She filled water glasses with hands that barely shook. 5 years of practice hiding fear served her well now. Around her, conversations flowed, business deals, political maneuvering, social climbing. Nobody looked at her face. Nobody recognized the disgraced Dr. Harrison. Not yet. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC's voice cut through the chatter. Please welcome our host for the evening, State Senator Troy Dalton. Applause rippled through the ballroom. Troy stood, his smile megawatt bright, and walked to the podium like he owned the room. Because he did. This was his event, his crowd, his kingdom. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, his voice smooth as silk. Your generosity continues to change lives in our community. Together we've raised over $3 million for charitable causes this year alone. More applause. Lena's stomach churned. Troy continued, hitting all his talking points. Ethics in leadership, commitment to transparency, serving the public good. Every word a perfectly crafted lie. Before we conclude this evening, he said, I want to share a brief presentation about this year's beneficiaries, the real people whose lives you've helped transform. He clicked the remote. The massive screens flanking the stage flickered to life, but instead of smiling charity recipients, Troy's own face appeared. A video dated 5 years ago, showing him in a pharmaceutical executive's office. I don't care about the side effects, video Troy said. We suppress the data, push it through approval, and make 50 million before anyone notices. The ballroom went silent. Real Troy froze at the podium, his face draining of color. He clicked the remote frantically. Nothing happened. The video continued, meeting after meeting, bribe after bribe. Troy systematically corrupting medical research, bribing officials, destroying anyone who threatened to expose him, including a young researcher named Dr. Lena Harrison. What is this? Troy shouted at the AV booth. Shut it down. But the screens kept playing. Financial records appeared, showing money laundering through Cole's company. Emails detailing how Troy had fabricated evidence against Lena. Police reports from the 3 other people he'd destroyed. And then Lena herself appeared on screen, filmed that morning in the closed diner. My name is Dr. Lena Harrison, her recorded voice said clearly. 5 years ago, I was a medical researcher on track to save thousands of lives. Senator Troy Dalton destroyed my career because I refused to help him profit from people's suffering. In the ballroom, people were standing now, shocked murmurs growing louder. Reporters pulled out phones, already streaming the footage live. Lena set down her water pitcher and walked toward the stage. This is fabricated, Troy shouted, his composure finally cracking. This is a coordinated attack by the woman you tried to erase, Lena called out, her voice carrying across the stunned ballroom. Every head turned. She climbed the steps to the stage, pulling off her apron. Troy backed away, genuine fear flashing across his face as he finally recognized her. "You told me 5 years ago that nobody would believe me," Lena said, facing him directly. "You were right. They didn't. You had too much power, too much money, too much influence." She gestured at the screen, still playing evidence. "But you made one mistake, Senator. You did it to too many people. Eventually, the truth becomes impossible to hide." "Security!" Troy screamed. But the security guards didn't move. Reaper and his people had them surrounded. Cole stood, walking calmly to the stage. "I think we should let Ms. Harrison finish, don't you, Senator?" Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. The carefully controlled gala had erupted into chaos. And through the back entrance, police officers appeared. Real ones this time, not on Troy's payroll. "Senator Troy Dalton," the lead detective said, pulling out handcuffs. "You're under arrest for bribery, fraud, corruption, and obstruction of justice." Troy's legs actually buckled. He grabbed the podium for support. His perfect facade shattered completely. "You can't. I'm a state senator." "Not anymore," the detective said flatly. They put him in handcuffs as 500 of the state's most powerful people watched in stunned silence. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting live to news stations across the country. Lena stood on the stage, watching the man who'd destroyed her life being led away in disgrace. She expected to feel triumph, vindication, joy. Instead, she just felt tired, and finally free. Cole appeared beside her as the ballroom erupted in chaos. "You did it." "We did it," she corrected quietly. His hand found hers, warm and steady. Around them, reporters shouted questions. Guests demanded explanations, and the scandal of the decade unfolded in real time. But for just a moment, standing on that stage, Lena let herself breathe. The nightmare was over. The news cycle exploded. By morning, Troy Dalton's arrest was the top story on every channel. Video from the gala had gone viral, over 50 million views in 12 hours. Hashtags trended. Think pieces proliferated. The scandal had everything: corruption, betrayal, a powerful man's downfall, and a survivor's triumph. Lena sat in Mary Lou's living room, watching her face appear on screen after screen. Former Dr. Lena Harrison exposes corrupt senator. The media had finally gotten the story right. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing. Interview requests, book deals, movie offers. She'd ignored them all. "You should eat something," Mary Lou said, setting down a plate of eggs Lena had no appetite for. "The DA's office called again," Reaper reported from the kitchen doorway. "They want you to testify. Grand jury convenes next week." Lena nodded numbly. After 5 years of silence, suddenly everyone wanted to hear her story. The TV showed federal agents leaving Troy's office, carrying boxes of evidence. His assets had been frozen overnight. His campaign accounts, his real estate holdings, his investment portfolios, everything locked down pending investigation. "They found more," Cole said quietly, appearing in the doorway. He looked exhausted, having spent the night with lawyers and investigators. "Troy wasn't just corrupt in your case. It goes back 15 years, dozens of victims, hundreds of falsified records." His jaw tightened. "And I missed all of it." "You didn't miss it," Lena said. "He hid it. That's what men like Troy do. They're experts at hiding." Cole moved to sit beside her, close but not touching. Over the past week, something had shifted between them. Not quite romance, there'd been no time for that, no space amid the chaos, but something deeper than gratitude, something that felt like the beginning of trust. The news switched to footage of Troy's perp walk. Even in handcuffs, he'd tried to maintain dignity, his lawyer shouting, "No comment," as cameras flashed. But there was no hiding the fear in his eyes, the reality that his carefully constructed empire was crumbling. "State prosecutors are calling it the biggest corruption case in decades," the anchor reported. "Senator Dalton faces multiple felony charges including bribery, fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. If convicted on all counts, he could face up to 40 years in prison." 40 years. Lena tried to feel satisfaction and found only emptiness where her anger used to live. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. He destroyed my sister's medical career 3 years ago. We never had proof. Jennifer M." Then another. "I lost everything because I threatened his pharmaceutical deal. Seeing him arrested gave me the first peace I've had in years. David R." More messages flooded in. People Troy had hurt, lives he'd ruined. a pattern of destruction spanning decades. You gave them their voices back, Cole said quietly, reading over her shoulder. No, I just stopped being silent. Lena set down the phone. They always had voices. He just made sure nobody listened. The doorbell rang. Mary Lou answered it, returning with Sheriff Martin, who looked a decade older than he had 2 weeks ago. Ms. Harrison, he said formally, I need to apologize. I took Senator Dalton's money. I falsified reports. His voice cracked. I helped him hurt you, and I'm deeply sorry. Lena studied him. The shame in his posture was genuine. Are you turning yourself in? Already did. I'll probably lose my badge, might face charges. He met her eyes. But I needed you to know. What you did took courage I didn't have. After he left, Reaper shook his head. At least he owned it. The news continued. Relentless. Federal investigations expanding. Troy's political allies scrambling to distance themselves. His charitable foundation being audited. Early reports suggested most of the donations had been embezzled. By afternoon, Lena's medical license review had been fast-tracked. The state medical board issued a statement acknowledging serious irregularities in her original case and promising a full reinvestigation. They're going to reinstate you, Cole said, reading the statement on his phone. The board president told me personally, your research, your career, you'll get it all back. Lena's throat tightened. 5 years. 5 years of believing she'd never practice medicine again, never conduct research, never save the lives she'd dedicated her training to saving. I don't know if I want it back, she admitted quietly. Everyone turned to stare at her. What do you mean? Mary Lou asked. I mean, Lena struggled to articulate the feeling. For 5 years I defined myself by what I lost. The career Troy destroyed. The life he stole. She looked around at the faces watching her, Mary Lou, Reaper, Cole. But maybe I don't want to go back to being that person. Maybe I want to build something new. Cole's expression shifted to understanding. The foundation. She'd mentioned it once, late one night during their planning. A dream that felt too big, too impossible. A real one. Not like Troy's fake charity. Something that actually helps people who've been falsely accused. Legal support, financial assistance. A voice for people the system failed. Highway Foundation, Reaper said immediately. Named after where this all started. Highway Foundation, Lena repeated, the words feeling right. Medical research and legal advocacy for victims of corruption and false accusations. Mary Lou wiped her eyes. Your doctor's salary would have funded it nicely. My doctor's salary plus Cole's matching donations. Cole added before Lena could protest. Not charity, investment. I told you I was complicit in Troy's operation whether I knew it or not. Let me help make it right. Lena wanted to argue, to insist she didn't need his money. But that was pride talking, and pride had no place in actually helping people. 50-50 partnership, she said instead. Equal say in all decisions. Cole extended his hand. Deal. Their handshake lingered a moment too long, his thumb brushing across her knuckles before he pulled away. The TV showed Troy being transferred to county jail, denied bail due to flight risk. His empire had collapsed in 72 hours, but Lena wasn't watching his destruction anymore. She was watching the beginning of something new. 6 weeks later, Lena stood in front of the Highway Diner with a paintbrush in her hand. The new sign had arrived that morning. Highway Foundation Cafe, where everyone deserves a second chance. Cole held the ladder steady below her, his expensive suit jacket discarded in favor of jeans and a paint-stained shirt. Little to the left. It's perfect where it is, Reaper called from his motorcycle, where he sat supervising with obvious amusement. Mary Lou emerged from inside carrying coffee. You're all terrible at this. The sign is crooked. It was crooked. Lena didn't care. The diner had reopened 2 weeks ago, transformed from a simple truck stop into something more. Half the space remained a working cafe. She'd kept her promise that nobody would go hungry or cold on Route 9. The other half had been converted into offices for the foundation. They'd helped 3 people already. A teacher falsely accused of misconduct. A small business owner framed by a competitor. A researcher whose work had been stolen and discredited. 3 lives beginning to heal, just like hers was. Sign looks good, Cole said, climbing down to stand beside her. Over the past 6 weeks, he'd been there almost daily, helping renovate, managing contractors, reviewing legal documents for the foundation. He claimed it was about the partnership, about making amends, but the way he looked at her suggested other motivations, Lena hadn't been ready to examine those motivations too closely, not yet. First, she'd needed to remember who she was, without fear, without shame, without the weight of Troy's destruction pressing down on her. She was getting there. First official board meeting is tomorrow, Mary Lou reminded them, checking her tablet. She'd become the Foundation's operations director, bringing decades of business experience and an intolerance for nonsense that kept everything running smoothly. And the medical board hearing is next week, Lena added. Her license reinstatement was almost complete, just one final review, a formality at this point. You going to accept the research position at Hopkins? Reaper asked. Lena had received the offer last week, full professorship, unlimited research funding, everything she'd lost offered back on a silver platter. I'm going to decline, she said. Cole's head snapped toward her. What, Lena, that's your dream job. It was my dream job, 5 years ago. She set down the paintbrush, surveying the diner-turned-foundation with satisfaction. This is my dream now, helping people who ended up where I did, making sure they don't have to fight alone. You could do both, Cole argued. Research part-time, run the foundation. I could, she agreed, but I don't want to. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want, not what I'm supposed to want. She met his eyes. I'm choosing this. He studied her face, then nodded slowly. Then we make this the best damn foundation in the country. Already is, Reaper said loyally. A truck pulled into the parking lot, one of their regulars, a driver who'd been stopping at the diner for years. He waved, heading inside for his usual coffee and pie. Lena smiled. Some things didn't need to change. The foundation's first major fundraiser was scheduled for next month, a motorcycle rally organized by Reaper, with proceeds going to legal defense funds. They were expecting over 2,000 riders. Troy's trial was set for fall. The DA had offered Lena a chance to testify, to face him one final time in court. She'd agreed, though the thought still made her stomach clench. But this time she wouldn't be alone in that courtroom. I should get back to the office, Cole said reluctantly, checking his watch. Board meeting at 4. He'd restructured his entire company after the scandal, implementing oversight and ethics reviews that industry analysts called revolutionary, and probably overkill. Cole had responded that overkill was the only appropriate response to what happened. Same time tomorrow? He asked Lena. We need to review the grant applications. Same time tomorrow, she confirmed. He lingered, like he wanted to say something else, but Mary Lou appeared with more coffee, and the moment passed. After Cole left, Mary Lou gave Lena a knowing look. You two are adorable. We're business partners. Sure you are, honey. Mary Lou patted her arm. Keep telling yourself that. Lena didn't respond, but she couldn't help watching Cole's car disappear down Route 9. By evening, the cafe was full of its usual crowd, truckers, bikers, travelers seeking warmth and good food. Lena moved through the space, pouring coffee and checking on tables, falling back into the rhythm that had sustained her through 3 difficult years. But everything felt different now. Lighter. Like she'd been carrying a weight so long she'd forgotten it was there, and someone had finally lifted it. She paused by the window, watching snow begin to fall. Not a blizzard this time, just gentle flakes drifting down, covering Route 9 in clean white. Her phone buzzed. A text from Cole. Forgot to tell you. Dalton's attorneys tried to file for dismissal. Judge denied it. Trial moves forward as scheduled. Good, she typed back. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Proud of you. For everything. Her chest did something warm and complicated. Mary Lou was right. They were going to have to address this eventually. But tonight, Lena just wanted to stand in her cafe, watching snow fall on the highway where everything had changed, and feel grateful. For bikers who'd needed shelter, for friends who'd believed her, for justice that had finally arrived, and for second chances she was learning to believe in again. 4 months after the gala, winter returned to Route 9. Lena was closing the cafe early, a rare quiet Tuesday with the forecast promising another storm, when she heard the motorcycle. Not the rumble of Reaper's Harley. Something different. Smoother, more expensive. She looked up from wiping down tables and froze. Cole Granger sat astride a black Ducati, helmet in his hands, looking simultaneously confident and uncertain. Snow fell softly around him, catching in his dark hair. You bought a motorcycle? Lena said, stepping outside. Seemed appropriate. He dismounted with the careful movements of someone still learning. Reaper's been teaching me. Says I'm hopeless but improving. Why? Because... He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. Can I come in? She held the door open. Cole followed her inside, brushing snow from his jacket. He'd changed over the past months. Still wealthy, still powerful, but something fundamental had shifted. He smiled more easily now, laughed at himself, spent Sundays at the cafe helping serve breakfast instead of attending society brunches. I've been thinking, he started, then stopped. Actually, I've been thinking for months. But I wanted to wait until everything settled, until the trial ended. Troy's trial had concluded 3 weeks ago. Guilty on all counts. 45 years. He'd aged a decade during sentencing. His perfect facade completely shattered. Lena had testified, faced him one final time. And when it was over, she'd walked out of that courtroom feeling nothing but relief. Why wait? She asked Cole now. Because I didn't want you to think I was taking advantage. That I was some white knight trying to win the princess after saving her. He met her eyes. You didn't need saving, Lena. You saved yourself. I just had the privilege of helping. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. But the waiting is killing me. Cole continued, his voice dropping. So I'm here to ask you something, and you can say no. You can tell me I'm an arrogant billionaire who doesn't understand boundaries, and I'll accept that. Cole, do you remember what you said the first day we met? About scary men in expensive suits? He smiled slightly. You were right. I was arrogant, entitled. I walked into your life demanding explanations and making judgments without knowing anything about you. You didn't know. I should have. He stepped closer. I should have seen past my own privilege long enough to ask questions, to wonder why a woman with your intelligence and capability was working night shifts at a highway diner. To consider that maybe the world wasn't as simple as my bank balance made it seem. Lena's throat tightened. You apologized for that months ago. I know, but I need you to understand something else. His hand came up, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was achingly tender. These past 4 months, working with you at the foundation, watching you help people rebuild their lives, you've become the most important person in my world. And I can't keep pretending it's just about business partnership. The cafe suddenly felt too warm. I'm not good at this, Cole admitted. Vulnerability, emotional honesty. I spent 35 years believing money and power were sufficient, that relationships were transactions. His gray eyes held hers. And then I met you and nothing made sense anymore. Cole, Lena struggled to find words. I'm still figuring out who I am without fear, without shame. I don't know if I'm ready for... I know. He smiled, gentle and understanding. I'm not asking you to be ready. I'm just asking if maybe, possibly, you might want to try. No pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who've been through hell together, seeing if maybe there's something worth exploring on the other side. Lena looked at him, really looked. At the man who'd restructured his entire company based on ethical principles, who spent weekends teaching underprivileged kids about business, who'd learned to ride a motorcycle because she'd once mentioned finding the sound comforting, who looked at her like she was extraordinary. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Good, so am I. He took her hand carefully, like she might bolt. Terrified, actually. I've never felt this way about anyone. Never wanted to be this vulnerable. You could destroy me with a word, Lena. I wouldn't. I know. That's why I'm here. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Because you're the kind of person who shelters freezing strangers without hesitation, who fights corrupt senators despite knowing the cost, who builds foundations to help others even when you're still healing yourself. He paused. You're extraordinary, and I'm hoping you'll give me the chance to prove I can be worthy of that. The snow fell heavier outside, muffling the world in white silence. Inside the warm cafe, Lena stood holding the hand of a man who'd somehow become essential to her life. One condition, she said finally. Anything. No more apologizing for the past. We both made mistakes. We both learned. If we're doing this, her heart hammered. If we're trying this, we start from here, from now. No guilt, no debt. Just 2 people choosing each other. Cole's smile could have lit the entire highway. Deal. He pulled her closer, slowly enough that she could pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Their kiss was soft, tentative, perfect, like coming home after a long journey, like finding something she hadn't known she was searching for. When they finally pulled apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. I should probably tell you, Mary Lou and Reaper have a bet running about when this would happen. Lena laughed, the sound surprising her. Who won? Mary Lou. She said 4 months. Reaper thought I'd cave at 3. He grinned. They both know me too well. Outside, the storm intensified. But inside the Highway Foundation Cafe, wrapped in Cole's arms, Lena felt nothing but warmth. Stay, she said quietly. The storm's getting worse. You shouldn't drive. I have a motorcycle now, remember? I can handle. Cole, stay. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Not just about the storm, about everything the invitation meant. Yeah, he said softly. Yeah, I'll stay. Mary Lou would find them the next morning, laughing over coffee in the empty cafe, Cole wearing Lena's oversized sweatshirt and looking happier than anyone had ever seen him. But that was tomorrow. Tonight they just held each other while the snow fell. 2 people who'd survived their own storms, finally finding shelter together. Spring arrived on Route 9 like a promise kept. Lena stood outside the Highway Foundation Cafe watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The snow had finally melted, revealing new grass and the first brave flowers pushing through winter-hard ground. 6 months since the gala. 6 months since Troy's arrest. 6 months since everything changed. A truck pulled into the parking lot. Jake, one of their regulars. "Morning, Doc," he called, using the nickname the truckers had adopted after her medical license was reinstated. "Morning, Jake. Usual. You know it." Inside, the cafe hummed with early morning energy. Mary Lou managed the coffee station, while Reaper, who'd taken a semi-permanent position as security consultant, helped a young woman fill out legal aid applications. She was their newest client, a teacher falsely accused of misconduct by a vindictive administrator. They'd help her, just like they'd helped 43 others over the past 6 months. The foundation had grown faster than any of them expected. Donations poured in from people inspired by Lena's story. Lawyers volunteered their time. Medical professionals offered free consultations. What started as a dream in Mary Lou's garage had become a legitimate organization helping dozens of people rebuild their lives. Cole appeared from the office, wearing jeans and the Highway Foundation t-shirt they'd all adopted as unofficial uniform. He'd sold his Manhattan penthouse 3 months ago, buying a modest house just outside town. His company still thrived, but he'd delegated most operations to trusted executives, choosing instead to focus on the foundation and on Lena. "Morning," he said, sliding an arm around her waist and kissing her temple like it was the most natural thing in the world. It was, she realized. Somewhere between late-night planning sessions and early morning coffee runs, Cole had become part of her daily routine, part of her life, part of her heart. "The adoption papers came through," he told her quietly. "It's official. Rhoda 9 Justice Project is now a registered 501c3. They'd expanded beyond the original Highway Foundation, creating a separate organization specifically for legal advocacy, named after the highway that had changed everything. "That's wonderful," Lena said, meaning it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Patricia Chen at Johns Hopkins. "Still holding that research position if you change your mind. But I understand if you don't. What you're building is important too." Lena smiled and pocketed the phone. She'd made her choice. Maybe someday she'd return to medical research. But right now, this work mattered more. A familiar rumble filled the air. Motorcycles, dozens of them, pulled into the parking lot. The weekly breakfast run that Reaper organized, bringing Hell's Angels from 3 chapters to support the cafe. "Here comes trouble," Mary Lou said fondly. They came every week, these leather-clad guardians who'd decided Lena and her foundation were worth protecting. They donated generously, volunteered frequently, and spread word about the foundation's work throughout their networks. All because she'd opened a door one frozen night. Lena served coffee and breakfast, falling into the rhythm she'd perfected over years. But everything felt different now. She wasn't hiding anymore, wasn't afraid, wasn't ashamed. She was Dr. Lena Harrison again. But also Lena Brooks, both versions of herself, integrated and whole. By mid-morning, the breakfast crowd had thinned. Cole found her wiping down tables, a task she insisted on doing herself despite being foundation director. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked. "Just thinking about how strange life is. A year ago, I was invisible, scared, convinced I'd never be anything but the woman Troy destroyed." She set down her cloth. "And now you've helped 43 people reclaim their lives, built a foundation that's changing how the justice system treats false accusations, became a voice for people who thought nobody would listen." Cole pulled her close. "And somehow, impossibly, you let me into your life. Best decision I ever made, she said honestly. Second best, he corrected. First was opening that door during the blizzard. He was right. The afternoon brought more clients, more stories, more lives to help rebuild. Lena listened to each one with the attention and compassion she'd once brought to her medical practice. Different work, same calling, helping people heal. As sunset approached, she stepped outside for air. The highway stretched endlessly in both directions, cars and trucks flowing past like blood through veins. Route 9 had been her hiding place once. Now it was her foundation. Cole joined her, 2 coffee cups in hand. Mary Lou's closing up early, says we all need a night off. I should protest. But you won't. He knew her too well. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the day fade. Somewhere out there, Troy Dalton sat in a prison cell, his empire destroyed, his legacy ruined. Lena rarely thought about him anymore. He'd stolen 5 years of her life. She refused to give him another moment. I love you, Cole said suddenly. I know we've been taking things slow and I'm not trying to rush anything, but I needed you to know. Lena's heart expanded in her chest. I love you too. His smile was brighter than the sunset. So what happens now? He asked. She considered the question. The foundation would keep growing. More people would need help. Troy's trial had inspired others to come forward with their own stories of corruption and abuse. The work would never be finished. But that was okay. She'd learned that healing wasn't a destination. It was a journey, and she was finally moving forward instead of just surviving. Now? Lena leaned into Cole's warmth. Now we keep going. Keep helping people. Keep building something that matters. Together? Always. A motorcycle rumbled past on Route 9, the rider waving as they recognized the cafe. Lena waved back, smiling at this life she'd somehow built from ruins. The road stretched ahead, open and free, and for the first time in 6 years, Dr. Lena Harrison wasn't running from her past. She was driving toward her future. Thanks for reading. If this story touched your heart, hit that follow button and share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are possible. Drop a comment telling me which moment resonated most with you. Your support keeps these stories coming.